Marsh. Let's cyber scout at Marsh a little bit. You know, all I hear is guys say, "Oh, Marsh is so easy. It's so easy." Yeah, it's super easy to find beds. You know, that don't mean it's easy. You get these guys that are on these giant YouTube channels and they're killing these giant bucks every year. Well, you got to consider them guys are hunting 7 days a week. But they're not hunting, they're scouting, and they know what these deer are doing. They're very good at what they're doing. So, guys that only have a couple days a week, you need to know where they're at and why they're using that certain area and why they're bedding there and when they're bedding there. So, let's take a little bit of look at of some beds, some buck beds in the swamp or in the marsh. Be pretty similar. They're going to be a little bit beat down. You're going to be able to identify them most of the time because they're in the mud or they're right off of the mud, and usually it's pretty nasty. So compared to a big woods where, say, like the video I had a couple weeks ago, say you have a corner, you know the buck's bedding there on a certain wind or whatever, and you're going to go into that corner in the off season. You're not going to find a bunch of beds, well defined beds. You're not. You might find a little spot looks like a buck bed that's pushed down a little bit, and some pine needles or leaves or whatever. But when you get out to the marsh and compare that, you're going to see a lot more defined beds in the marsh setting because first off, if you're in a big woods like a state forest, like my video before, they're going to be on them corners, and they could be anywhere. They could be anywhere on that corner, and they could set themselves up to watch out the opening, watch access with wind over their back, whatever they want to do, and go anywhere on that corner or that point or that bowl, and bed. And they can. When you're in the marsh, they can't because there's water there. So they're going to have only specific spots in that specific area that they can bed. They can't bed in water. A deer is not going to lay in water. I believe they can get hypothermia. So you got to keep that in mind too. But these marsh beds, they're going to be well defined. You're going to be able to find a lot of them, and that's where I have more trouble getting on marsh deer than anywhere because the marsh, the deer they go. They'll run off that point or that corner, and they'll go out in the middle of the marsh and get on them little brush islands. You know what I mean? And I know there's nothing out there for them, but when they're pressured, they're going to go where nobody else goes. So, but they're still going to be on them transitions, or just off of them in a frag or on a point when it's got immature trees and stuff like that. So you'll see when we cyber scatter. Here we go. Now here's a bed in a pine swamp. It's like on a hump surrounded by water. Here's a marsh buck bed underneath a big overgrown nastiness. Here is inside that cave I call Buck Cave. Look at that bed right there. Here's another pine swamp bed between them two trees. Here's a swamp bed, man. See how defined it is? He keeps moving all over the place. And look at the hair in that bed. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. Here's one against the log, hair all over. It just, all swamp stuff. Here's a pine thicket. See, you can really see the hair, but not defined bed. And look at the two does there. How are you going to define a bed in that pine stuff? It's too soft. All right, first things first. Let's get this out of the way real quick. See this? Look at all these deer going to this island. How am I going to hunt that? You're probably not. It's probably going to be impossible. Well, unless you get airlifted out there and dropped onto the island at, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. Because, most of the information I give to you guys is referring to outside of the rut. This is probably, pressured bedding where they're coming out here when they got, some hunting pressure on them. And to hunt these islands would be very, very, very difficult. First off, you really need to be careful in these marshes because they're tidal. And when you hunt tidal marshes, you need to plan ahead at least 12 hours because if you're heading out to one of these marsh islands at high tide, I'm going to tell you right now, it's probably going to be low tide when it's time to go home. And guess what? If you're in a boat, you're probably not getting through a lot of the creeks that you came through to get to the islands because they're mud. Unless you have a mud motor or something in that, that's the advantage of having a mud motor. But walking, yeah, okay. Yeah, let me know how you make out. So, with that said, you guys, you got to be careful. You got to know when the tide's coming in and out when you plan these hunts out in these marshes. You really do, because it could get very dangerous very, very quickly. Look at all these trails going to these islands. How are you going to hunt these islands? Like I said, you're probably not going to. The mainland's this way. What are you going to walk 5 miles and come into these? And as soon as you come through all this frag and come down these deer trails any really way that the deer come down, deer are going to see you, hear you, or smell you. So how do I hunt this? How do I hunt it? You really, I hate to say it, but you really, really have to hunt the mainland, man. Somewhere in here. That's the nearest thing you could probably hunt, somewhere in here, and hopefully there's some big sign going out to these islands. I try to stay away from most guys. Most guys anymore are hunting these points over here on this side. They're going to hunt all this side and hunt the transition of these, of all this, all this stuff over here, because there is some bucks and the buck bedding over here, and there's some marsh, nasty stuff over here, but this is pounded. This whole side is absolutely pounded. So what do? I stay away from there, man. I get up in these spots that they're still pressure deer, but they're being bounced around, and I'll get into a situation and try to figure out what's going on in here. This is disgusting. Bucks can bed on this point here, up in this bowl, up in here, right in here, right in here. Watch human access in his bed. Have a wind over his back and watching all out here. It would be very difficult to hunt these deer in here, but not impossible. I'm going to give you an example. Say I'm hunting a buck and he's bedding in this bowl here. See this transition? This goes like this, runs back around and runs like this. So say he's bedding in this bowl somewhere, right? He don't have to be on the tip, bedding on that tip right there. That doesn't mean a buck bed is not going to be right on the tip. It could be, depending on how wet it is, how muddy it is, how disgusting, nasty it is. This is thick. You can't get no thicker than that but a briar patch. It's all fragmity and everything else. So that buck could be bedding over here on a hump, bedding over here on a hump, bedding right in the middle on a hump. As long as he can see this open area, he could still go a little deeper inside of that bowl. Or that tip. Well, I call it a bowl because it's going in like that, like a bowl. Or he could be better right on the tip, watching everything out here, wind over his back. How would I hunt this? This is how I would hunt it. All right. So how am I gonna say I got a buck, and I'm pretty sure he's bedding in this bowl. So here's his buck bed, and I'll use yellow for his buck bed. So he's bedding in his bowl. So what I've tried to figure out already is, here's 125 yards away. Here's 125 yards away. That's not going to be, so I can't hunt that. 125 yards, I think that's too far. 125 yards away, I doubt he's going to go this way. And 125 yards. I doubt very much he's going to go that way either, except during the rut. And we aren't talking about the rut. We're talking about outside of the rut. So what's that leave? That leaves he's going to come down through here, through open woods, right? Being smart. We're talking for an example. Say he's a good one. He's an older buck and he's smart. So do you really think he's going to come down here and walk through here to get down here or to down here in open woods during daylight? I doubt it very, very much. A lot of people don't think of this. I think myself, he's going to get up, he's going to walk his transition, and then come out and ease his way, probably hit some oak trees or acorns up in here, and walk out here, and walk out to here, or whatever. So I'm getting up in here somewhere. That's where I'm going. That's where my odds are going to stack in favor for me. So how am I going to get in here? Well, I'm walking down this way. I'm walking down this hedgerow. I'm making sure that there's no holes in the hedgerow where he can still see. Because I'm going to tell you right now, especially later on after the rut, that deer can probably see almost out to these fields. So I'm walking down in here. I'm walking back here. And I'm not walking in the field. I'm walking down here and I'm very, very gingerly, very silently, very, very, very quietly getting right here and I'm setting up. And he's probably looking this way and I'm really, really, really hiding myself all the way from here. I'm ducking behind trees. I'm being real slow, watching over here. And I'm really, really trying to get here. That's why I'm giving myself plenty of time to get to this spot. I want to hunt this buck because I really think he's going to come out this way somehow or another. And I'm going to sit here and set up, and then I'm going to wait, and hopefully, dead buck. So that's how I would set up in a tree in a March situation like that. That's just a couple little things. I'm gonna have some more videos on Marsh, man, because I really do like Marsh. I want to get some more pictures together for you to show you more defined beds, how they come out into these. You'll be walking out to one of these through frag, and there'll be a bed there, and then you'll walk a little more to bed there, and then you'll turn a corner, there's a bed there. It's crazy, man. There's a lot of doe bedding in Fragmites, so. You got to keep that in mind too. They bed on the little humps, man. They'll lay over that frag, and if them roots get tore up and it's not growing there no more, they will actually lay on that hump in the middle of the frag, and the frag's all flooded. There's water everywhere, and then I don't know how, but they go through them trails, and that's why you'll see deer on your trail cameras with black socks. I call them black socks. It's full of mud. So, guys, stay tuned, man. More cyber scouting for marshes, big woods, and a lot of other stuff coming, man. That's just a little piece, part one of marsh scouting. So, make sure you check me out in the future and stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button, and I appreciate it. And as usual, subscribe and like to the Buckside. Peace.